Good morning, everybody. It's time for a 5 minutes with Scott. In other words, in less than 5 minutes, we're going to take some time and talk about some issues with publishing and marketing and whatever. And this one is actually one of those that can probably be extended outside of obviously publishing. And it's about taking opportunities that are given to you. And I think too often people just miss those opportunities. I'm reminded, my wife and I just love this one joke, and we're always talking about this one, and it always somehow pops up. But it's a story about a guy who there's a massive flood that's in his town, and he's panicked, but he is religious and he knows God's going to save him. And so he's watching the water rise. He's watching the water rise, and a guy comes by in a boat. And by this point, the guy's already on the second floor of his house. The guy comes by in a boat and says, "Dude, hop in the boat, I'll save you." And he goes, "No, God's going to save me." And he sits there and he waits, and the water keeps coming higher and higher. And then he's up on the top of the roof, and another boat comes by and says, "Guy, jump in the boat, you got to save me. Or I can save you." And he goes, "No, God's going to save me." And the water is really rising, and now he's on top of the chimney, and a helicopter comes by, and the helicopter says, "Guy, grab onto the rope, I'll save you." And he says, "No, God's going to save me." Well, eventually the water comes up, the guy dies, and here he is, he's standing up in heaven before God, and he's going, "God, I thought you were there for me. Thought you were always there for me." And God looks at him and says, "Dude, I sent you 3 different ways to get out. Why didn't you take it?" Now, I bring that up because I think too often people miss those opportunities. They miss the things that are given to them right there and right then. I'm reminded of an author who had an opportunity and she took it. This was one of those great opportunities. She was sitting at a table during a conference, and she happened to be sitting next to just this random person. And they started talking about the books and everything. And the person next to her said, "Hey, I'd love to read your book." Well, this person happened to be the book buyer for Barnes and Noble. Okay, and that was it. Actually, Borders. Sorry, Borders books, when Borders was around, right? But she happened to be the book buyer. Has absolutely no, yes, she's got connections, but she doesn't buy books. She buys them from the publisher. But she says, "I'd love to read your book." So this author took the opportunity and said, "Sure." I handed it to her, sent it to her. About 6 months later, she got an email and said, "I am so sorry for taking so long, but I really love this book. Is it okay if I pass this one on over to a publisher I know?" Who happened to be Pocket Publishing at that time. Look, there was an opportunity. She took it. I think too often, though, authors miss those opportunities. Somebody says, "Hey, I totally love your idea. Really interested in this. I'd love to see this." And what do? They panic. They run. I know that I had an author once who I met at a conference, and just like an hour before I was talking to an editor, and the editor said, "If you can find something like this, I would love it." Talk about just a random situation. One of the next people who pitched had one of those stories. Said, "I totally love this story." And she had pitched this one single story, had 2 additional follow-ups. It was everything that editor wanted. I said, "Send me that full." I'm going to tell you that 10 years later, I've still never seen that manuscript. She had an opportunity. She didn't take it. I've had authors who have opportunities handed to them in terms of a publisher saying, "I really want your book." And it might not have been the one that she wanted, but the publisher said, "I want this book. I think this book will sell." The publisher or the author turns around and goes, "It's not what I wanted," and walked away. Missed that opportunity. I've had authors who say, "I want like single titles for something," and then I can find that person for them, and then they just never produce that book for me. They never get it to me. I don't know what happens. So the deal is, if you have that opportunity, if an agent, an editor, somebody says they've got something for you, take the opportunity. It's a chance. They were interested at that moment. Maybe it was that God sending you that boat that you needed. So in under 5 minutes, I want you to think about those opportunities, not just with publishing, but in your daily life, and you have a great day.